The All Smiling Faces podcast is now sponsored by Tyre Spot, the Northeast's leading tyre supplier with branches across the region. Tyre Spot don't just do tyres, they cover everything from servicing to wheel alignment. They can handle every aspect of your car's maintenance. For more information, visit tyrespot.co.uk. Enjoy the episode. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Always Smiling Faces podcast on the GallowgateShots YouTube channel. As those that are watching live will be able to tell, we are not in the studio tonight. We have gone back to COVID days. Decker has COVID. I'm crying my eyes out. I can't even barely open my eyes tonight because I am loaded with cold.
COVID. Loaded with COVID.
Mark. And Scott has joined us tonight. So, in true COVID fashion, God knows how long this one is going to go on tonight. Decker's got his Guinness. I've got me pint. And we're just going to chat all things Newcastle United.
It's good that you've gone on the pretense of that we've done this because of COVID, when we all know this is so that we can comply with PSR rules. We've actually had to sell the studio for podcast sustainability rules.
Yeah, that could be true. Yeah, so unfortunately, we have had to sell the studio. We'll have to rent it out. We've sent the studio out on loan. That's gone to another Newcastle United.
We've sold Daryl. Daryl's gone.
Daryl's gone.
We've got Daryl from Wish.
We just,
Scott. Hey,
we just had to cut Bestie's contract up. Nobody wanted him, so we cut his up. He's like the Jeff Hendrick of this podcast, Bestie. But let's just get into it, boys. The last couple of weeks we've kind of struggled, but I say struggle. We'll always find something to talk about, but there hasn't been much happening really. Then, all coming in the last 24 hours, Newcastle United just absolutely implodes on itself and starts selling everybody and trying to sell everybody under the sun, including Anthony Gordon. But we will get onto that in just a little bit. Mark, we knew this was coming. We knew Newcastle United had to sell players. To once again, we're going to talk about it again, Mark. Just last week we said PSR about 1 million times, but we had to sell players to avoid a point deduction. Newcastle were worried that it was going to be double figures, a minimum of 10-point deduction if we didn't sell these players. But there's two out the door, Mark. Elliot Anderson has gone and Minti has gone to Brighton. And we've got a canny fee for the pair of them if we combine them, pair them together. Were you shocked or were you expecting this to happen?
I guess to go out the door, you've got to come through the door first, don't you? In Minty's case, I'm not even sure that happened. But I think when you look at the fees that we've kind of attracted for the both of them, I'm probably more shocked in that, as opposed to them going. They may be not the ones that anybody thought would go. All the talk has been about the big hitters going, which nobody wanted to see. And then the hope would be that we would get rid of some of the fringe players and ship them out. But, as we've spoke about a number of times, you've got to have a willing buyer, not just a willing seller. So we are where we are. And I think Minti is the one where probably had it, you weren't surprised that he had as many suitors. Elliot Anderson one just came out of absolutely nowhere. So yeah, that one was a big shock.
You're on mute.
He's actually lost his voice through COVID now. This is what's happened. not only is he in tears, he can't actually speak. He's that emotional about Elliot Anderson.
For somebody to say, you're on mute. It's like Zoom all over again. This is not going to end well tonight. I tell you, Decker's gone. Decker's off. Scott, we're talking about Elliot Anderson, but his name was mentioned a few times in the run-up to Sunday. This is why everybody was saying it had to be done by Sunday. We knew Anderson was 100% profit, as people like to keep on saying. Comes through the academy, and any sort of money which we bring in from Anderson just exceeds whatever extra we're expecting when obviously go and spend that in the market. Mark's mentioned there that he was shocked with the prices which we managed to get and the fees that we've managed to obtain from selling the two. And I was the same until the last well, since this morning, really. Then people start mentioning, yeah, but you got to remember we brought Hall in for this amount, we brought Tino in for that amount. So really, the figures aren't too far off from similar lads. So I think it's probably, I'm going to say about right, but no, I don't know. Mark wanted 50 million for Dubravka last week, and we're not getting that. So we might now. I don't know. I just think if we're paying, what was it, 30 plus for Tino, thereabouts, and it will work out 20 odd for Hall, it's not far off.
I think initial reaction was how much? And you think 35 million, you snap your hand off. Absolutely.
Minti I get, right? Just sorry to interrupt, but Minti I get. That's a huge fee. Anderson, I'm on the fence with it.
And for Elliot Anderson, you're just thinking, maybe he's 20, 25 million. You're thinking that's good business. But when you get 35 million for him, you're just thinking maybe that's a little bit too high. But then, like you say, I think it was 35, close to 40 million we paid for Tino. Hall, we all thought was around 35 million. It turns out it was 28 million. And even remember
is that not
what we paid?
That we've paid effectively a £7 million loan fee last year.
Yeah.
So probably it works out.
I
get why they're doing it, because obviously up until yesterday, we would have paid 7 million. From today, new financial year, we're now paying 28. So from that point of view, the PSR, I'll say it again, it works out doing it that way.
So when you add those two up, and then you got to think Elliot Anderson, he's got a year's Premier League experience, which Hall didn't have. He had a couple of games for Chelsea before we signed him last season on loan, and then he's had his 6 games. I think he ended up playing to the end of the season, maybe a little bit more for us. So for what was he, 21 when he's left? Elliot Anderson, I don't think he was even that old. It actually, for a young English centre midfielder, attacking centre midfielder.
Whoa, Scottish.
Probably going rate.
Scottish.
Well, English, Scottish. He was born in England. He's a Geordie. Again, you kind of think it's going rate, and you've got to add the tax on for him being English when Minti doesn't get that, and there's a few other players that have been going to other clubs for around that price. I mean, you just got to look at Man U paying 80 million for Anthony, and look what he's done. And he hasn't done anything. So, similar age,
come in, Scott,
and
because
sort of thing.
I think Decker's about to burst here. Because Decker, you're thinking this is miles off on you.
Yous are insane, you three. Like, how 35 million for him? Come on here. This is like, I thought we've got someone on the inside at Forest. I'm telling you, we have someone on the payroll inside that football club. Because
are you that shocked by it when you look at, like, obviously
stunned?
But why? Were you shocked about how much we had paid for Tino?
Yes, and Hall.
You
yes.
were. Okay.
I don't think you can. You don't have to. I don't feel you have to balance them off to say, like, you can say both are high. Like you don't have to go, well, he's 40. I think someone made a comment of McAllister went from Brighton to Liverpool for 38.
Well, it was a buyout.
Oh, okay, right.
There are release clause in there.
Fair enough. But Bruno, we signed Bruno for 40. Maybe that was a release clause. Yeah. Someone's going to shout at us here. I'm waiting for the top Trump moment. I'm waiting for it.
But difference coming from League One, though, isn't it? Obviously, well, the fees that you get over there compared to the Premier League.
I'm going to spin the argument. You tell us the truth, right? So Anderson plays for Forest, hasn't scored a goal, injured last season, has a year's Premier League experience, and we pay £35 million plus Dubravka. What's your thoughts?
Oh, I'm exactly the same. I'm thinking exactly the same. You're thinking, but I'm more thinking of really investing that money in somebody who's unproven. And I get, honestly, I get your stance. I really do. But then
it's amazing business for the club.
Yeah, 100%. But for fine well, it's once again, me and Mark was speaking about this last week, and we'll try to do a deal with Everton, and it's kind of to bend the rules with PSR. That's why it's on these inflated prices. And yes, there are inflated prices, of course there are. And obviously, it's you scratch our back and we scratch yours. Hence why we've brought the goalkeeper in as well, probably. So we're helping each other out. But do you know what? I think if Anderson goes into Forest and has a starting spot in there, I think that fee that the paid from, they'll probably think it's been decent value. They're not going to be thinking, oh, that's fantastic value like we did with Anthony Gordon. I think we'll have to throw that in as well because we paid 40 mil for Gordon. It's not too far off that, and Gordon had a couple of seasons under his belt.
That's a good point because someone mentioned that to me about Gordon, right? So I'll spin that one. I mean, Gordon had been playing a lot more than Anderson right now. I think I'm laughing and bashing. I am not, because I'd like to say that I've been on the show and said many times how much I like Anderson. I definitely think there's a player in there. I really do. But I know he's a lot younger, but you look at Longstaff, for example, and I'm critical, saying could we even get 15 for him? For Longstaff, you think of the experience
was only a few seasons back where it was 50 million was the price, and price for Longstaff.
We should have done more. But anyway, but but we have had discussions, right, about we think we could get 15, 20 for Longstaff, right? And Mark's his biggest fan, right? I'm sure it's his dad, and his son. Sorry, I mean Mark's.
I was going to say
that's what I meant.
Mark's dad.
And even Mark says, well, maybe 20. Now. You look, you look at that for 35 for Anderson. Sure, none of us expected that. None of us, right? And I do agree with your point, though, Chris. To be fair, that on reflection, you look at the likes of Tino and you look at Hall, you can paint a different picture. But 35 million is incredible. To be honest, I think.
I think the one thing to bear in mind as well, though, the keeper's not part of the deal. The keeper is a separate deal altogether. So maybe it's we'll give you 35 million for Anderson to settle your PSR problem. And then you can give us probably, we don't know how much the keeper has been bought for.
Good point.
I know Forest paid 9 million for him last season, so maybe we give them 9 million back for the keeper. So really, it's
been rumored to be less than 5, though, hasn't it? So
I've not seen anything about the keeper, the price, but whatever it is, you can knock that off the price of Anderson in terms of a under the table handshake deal, whatever. So you can kind of, whatever that turns out to be, knock that off the price. So maybe you're looking at 30, 25 million, which then it's still maybe on the high end, but it's still, maybe it's closer to what you'd expect to get for a player of Anderson's quality.
I do want to say, though, that I find it a disgrace that we're in this position having to do that. We shouldn't have to be selling an up and coming player, that we all like, right? We've all got how rates. That's I think the most frustrating part for me is that we don't want to sell him. We just have to, which is just absolutely ludicrous. To be honest,
I get it, and I was annoyed as everybody else, and thinking it's such a shame that we're hoping last season was going to be Anderson's breakthrough season, but obviously he got that injury and he broke his back, didn't he? That's what it was with Anderson, and obviously with the opportunity that he had in front of him, with obviously Tonali getting banned as well, you're thinking, oh, now's your chance to get into that team and show your worth. And you look at the left hand side as well with Joe Willock and Joe Linton being injured for some of the season. You think Anderson can go on the left hand side. We had saw him do that a few times, and you're thinking, right, now's your breakthrough. And I think it's a shame for Anderson because Tonali's back next season. Obviously, his banner's gone, so he's probably going to struggle to get in to that team and show his value in that team, especially without European football. So it's probably, from Anderson's point of view, he's probably had to leave as well, Degger. If he wants first team football and he wants to advance his career and go to the next level, yes, people might look and think, that's a bit of a sidestep going from Newcastle United to Forest. But when I'm thinking a sidestep, him being a fringe player, and getting his opportunities, then moving across to Forest, I'm not thinking like for like. But for Anderson's career development, he's probably had to do it as well.
Well, I would agree with that. I think you could probably say, what is he, 6th choice, maybe?
Yeah, well, right. If we just look at it, we'll go through the players. You've got Bruno, Joelinton, Tonali,
Longstaff,
Willock ahead of him, Longstaff ahead of him,
Miley and Anderson.
Even Miley had a push as well. You don't know what's happening with Miley, but I think they're probably levels because we saw how impressive Miley was. There's not much in it, so 5th or 6th choice, Degger, yeah.
So again, in terms of the business we've done, we've managed to get £35 million for a 6th choice midfielder. It is incredible business that we've done there. It really is. Now, to your point though about him for his own career development, yeah, probably true. Yeah, probably is. I mean, I think I've got a lot of respect for Forest, to be quite honest with you, and I like them because they buy all the players, but for lots of money. But I think like going to Forest is a step down from us, right? At this present moment in terms of our trajectory and stuff. But I understand what you're saying. If he's probably being guaranteed first team football, which he's not going to get here, is he? At this moment in time. So yeah, it probably is better for him as well. But I just come back to it like it's an incredible amount of money, and worrying though, and we'll probably talk more about this, but worrying that we're £50 million in the hole apparently, looking at a points deduction the night before, almost trying to get rid of players. That just feels weird to me. It feels wrong, but
yeah. I think the other thing with Anderson is his wage would have had a big factor in the fee. I think he was only on 30 grand a week. So if Forest can get a 30 grand a week player, they can spend a bit more on the actual transfer fee. So they'll be like, look, we're looking around at these players that are wanting 70, 80 grand a week. Can't afford that. We can afford 30 grand, but we can pay more.
Scott, I think you've got that wrong, mate. I don't think Anderson would have shifted for the same wage, mind. I think if he's
but they're not going to be spending 80 grand a week on him, though, are they? He's not going to be going for a lot more.
I'd be surprised. I think he's probably close to double his wage, mind. Close to double his wage, moving for that fee. I think.
No, I'm with Scotty. I don't.
There's no way he's gone for the same wage.
No chance.
You're not going to pay £35 million for a player and pay that player 30 grand a week, right?
Surely you just got to look at Lewis Hall 60 now. His wages.
I think he'd be pushing 60 now.
Oh, well, come on, Villiers. It's all right.
But what I did want to mention, Mark, I just want to come back to you because, yes, we're talking about Anderson's fee, but Anderson had some Premier League experience, albeit quite small, but he had some Premier League experience. You look at Yankuba Minti, and just 5 million less, it's rumored, that Brighton have paid for him. That is business. That is, like, we're seeing how well we've done to get 35 million for Anderson. A player that hasn't even put a black and white shirt on apart from a photo shoot. We've got 30 million quid for him.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mark.
I'm saying it's a strange one, that one, because I mean we chatted about it a bit last week, but people are up in arms, and I think Decker was just about to say that he's more disappointed with Minti going than he is Anderson. The kid's never played for it. He's never played in the Premier League. He's had a few games in the Eredivisie, and he's had some decent games out there. He's had some stinking games out there. So it's it's people.
And Mark is our Dutch expert. Remember that. You have to remember that.
German,
Dutch, German, French.
all of the continents. It's. I think people. Hey, and it's not like Newcastle fans, is it? People get carried away with what they hear about certain players. He's going to be the next big thing. Oh, we definitely need a right winger. He'll be starting for next season. Like, as we've just said, he's a very, very young kid. He's raw. He's got no experience at all. So that's when you start thinking, well, maybe Anderson's, transfer fee isn't as crazy as you think when that. But ultimately, you're buying Minti based on all of the reasons why we bought him for £7 million. It's what he could become down the line, and he's got all of the attributes to go on and become a big player if he progresses in the way that his kind of stats suggest he does. That's the type of player Brighton like to kind of go after, identify, bring them in, nurture them, then sell them on for a fortune. They're having to do it slightly different this time around because we've kind of beaten them originally. There's Doris back for the old watchers.
People that are listening to the audio will have no idea what you're referring
Doris,
to.
But yeah, Doris is back on my shoulders, just like the old ones. So it's getting us in that position where we've bought a kid for £7 million. We've never, we haven't had to pay any of his wages. We haven't had to do any development of him or anything like that. And we've just sold him for 30 million quid. It's crazy that you can make a 23 million pound profit from doing absolutely nothing with a player.
I agree.
It is wonderful business. It is wonderful business by us, that. But I think the reason why when I said worried is or more, what's the word? Not upset either, but like I'm a bit more down on it.
Are you more deflated because as Newcastle fans, let's say 5 years ago, we were hoping for this sort of progression with players where we're buying them in young and thinking, oh, they're going to have a great future ahead of them. The one time we've done that, the first opportunity that came and went, See you later.
Exactly that. And also, I feel like the position that he plays is one that we need to strengthen, and one that I felt he could become something for us. And also, I'll add, I really do respect Brighton when the buy players and I always think Brighton know what they're buying. Does that make sense? And I just feel that, yes, it sounds a lot of money and he hasn't played for us before and all of that, but I just have this feeling that Brighton don't buy mugs.
So what are you basing that experience on?
Acceptable pill to swallow had he went abroad? Because there was rumours that Leon were after him, 40 million, which is where we got our price from originally, I think, for Tottenham. So had he went to Leon, would that have been an easier pill to swallow? But the fact he's gone to Brighton, who are arguably one of our rivals in the league, they're probably in and around that mini league that we're going to be in and around next season. Is that probably going to be a harder pill to swallow because of the club he's went to is one of our direct competitors?
A little bit, Scott, yeah. A little bit, I think. I mean, surely everyone can agree Brighton have got a good recruitment policy, right? Yeah. I think they generally buy players, that a lot of people may not know, but then turn them into to better players, and unfortunately have to maybe sell them. But also the other thing is as well, you're going to see him a lot more, I would think. We're going to see him weekly. Now that can work in a good way for us because we'll go, hey, we've cashed in £33 million for him. But I'm just being honest that I just feel it's a position that everyone, and this is no offense to Miggy, but everyone has a problem with, right? I don't. I'm just saying what other people do. And everyone always says the right-hand side needs to be strengthened. We've brought in a young player, as Chris mentioned before, that's got loads of talent, loads of abilities, doing wonders over there. He's going to come here and be the next big thing, and we've sold him. So I'm more so just like, I wish he could have maybe had that journey at us, and then maybe we sold him. We're just not. We're never going to know.
I think when we're talking about these transfers that have left the club, I think we'll kind of have to put a caveat in there, say reluctantly sold these players.
100%, mate. 100%.
Yeah, because I think the club's been forced.
We've been forced into it.
Yeah.
So last week, Mark, the title of the podcast that me and you done was Forced to Sell. This week, the title Scrambling to Sell, because we knew and it was well publicised that, as Deck has rightly mentioned earlier on, that we had a big downfall and an empty pot of cash that would need to claw back to avoid that point deduction. And you mentioned selling fringe players and things like that. These fringe players aren't bringing in the money that you need to bring in to avoid these point deductions, which we've seen obviously Forest and Everton get last season. And I mentioned this to you last week. I was worried of Newcastle United facing that because I just feel as this is tin hat on moment, but I feel as if the Premier League will find a reason to prosecute Newcastle United more than what they would with others. I might be completely wrong with that, but I think as to what's happened since our takeover, probably before our takeover, when there's rumours of it, every step of the way there's trying to be a hurdle put in front of our way. So I think those that hierarchy at Newcastle have had to be pretty wise with this one. But having said that, I'm the same opinion, Deck. I'm a little bit worried how it took until the last 24, 48 hours for this to be resolved.
But I think it's based on the fact that we didn't, get rid of the players that we maybe were hoping to or expecting to. And that's where it then gets you into that situation. And you've got to point the finger a little bit at the owners and the management of the club, because this couldn't have came as a surprise to them. We already knew that from the previous 2 years books and records that are out there, that we already had around about a 70 million loss for both of those previous 2 seasons before we even got to the season that's just finished. Obviously, we'll not know until what that balances out until we get into next year and into April and the end of the financial records are produced and stuff like that. But you can kind of work it out based on the fact of the players that we have brought in and signed across within the last 12 months, how much was spent. We've already, spoken about some of those players. The fact that we did bring Hall in initially on a loan just so we could roll some of that transfer fee over to today, so it counts in next year's figures. We're easily going to find ourselves, and my worry is we get to the 30th of June next year, we could be in exactly the same position. Now, you would hope we aren't, because we're going to have the new sponsorship money from Adidas coming in. We're going to have the Champions League money coming in. But I just feel that people's expectations are now, oh, well, we're fine. We've cleared the books. We're now on a level playing field. We're not. That first year drops off, so we'll take £70 million off, but we've still got 70 million from season before last, plus last year's to add on. So we could find ourselves in exactly the same position, particularly if we do spend this summer where we've got a big deficit. So you either, and hopefully this is what happens, the rules change and the figures are adjusted, because I can't see how, 100 million can be a figure that people have to work to over a 3-year period based on the money that's in football.
Or what we're going to really see, Mark, and moving over you, Scott, we're probably going to see our big players linked with moves away from the club every single transfer window as it comes around. You know for fine well. Let's say, and I'm hopeful of this, Bruno and Isaac stay, okay? You know for fine well, as soon as January comes, those rumours are straight back, and even more so when the summer comes.
Oh, we're gonna see it every single window. We're going to see it not even in the windows. You're going to see it every single week of every single month of every single year, because it's not going to go away. I mean, the Bruno rumours, if it's not him going somewhere, it's going to be, oh, he's got a release clause that's going to be open through this week of this month, going through for 3 weeks, and we've got that to look forward to. There'll be another thing where Isak's going to sign a new contract, but he's got a release clause for 3 weeks in January or whatever it's going to be, and it's just going to be an ongoing saga for as long as we have just the commercials building up to where we get to the level we need to be, where we're not worrying about having to continually sell our players. The thing is, we are going to have to continually sell our players. I mean, if you look at, there was a picture I saw the other week of Man City's squad, I think it was 10 years ago, versus Man City's squad last season, and there's one player in that squad from 10 years ago, and it's Kevin De Bruyne. And that's it. That's the only difference between the two squads. So the squad will evolve and change over the next 10 years. We're going to lose. Well, we're not going to lose. We're going to sell big players. It's going to happen. But we're going to be in positions where we're going to be bringing in, and we're going to be not only bringing in, but bringing up from the academy players who are going to replace these big players. And it's not going to be as big of an impact on the team, because who we're going to have to replace those players and who we're going to have coming up to replace those players, it's not going to be as big an impact. Or when they leave, and they're going to leave for equally as big of money, it's not going to be as dominant to the team, because the players filling their boots are just going to just continue where they left off, or they're going to be better, and it's not going to affect us. It's just at this point in time, we're at the very start of this massive journey, and it's affecting me. You got to remember, we've had 3 seasons where we've bought players, but we haven't sold a single player.
Yeah.
We're now having to sell players, and the problem is we don't have buyers. There's no one wanting to buy the likes of Jacob Murphy or, Jamal Lascelles or anyone like that yet. It's going to get to the point where those players are going to go. We're going to get small fees for them, or we're going to get nothing at all for them because the contract's going to expire. And that's where we're going to be needing to sell. Maybe it's the likes of a Sven Botman, or maybe it's the likes of, someone who is maybe not top tier in the squad, but middle ground in the squad, where you're thinking, oh, we shouldn't be selling them, but we're going to have to. But the money that's going to generate is going to allow us to buy maybe 3-4 players of equal or higher quality. And you just need to look at the bigger picture of the squad and think, okay, well, for the greater good, we're going to have to sell one player who is going to just evolve the squad even more for the next 3-4 years going down the line. It's just how we're going to have to evolve. Unfortunately, with the rules in place as they are, that's just how it is.
That's far too rational to be thinking that way, Scott.
But that's how it is. That's how it's going to be. Unfortunately, you've got to look at it that way. If not, you're just going to be doom and gloom for every single year.
Well, we like doom and gloom, Scott. That's what we're here for.
Scott. This is why you've been invited tonight. Be miserable.
Right, it's going to be hell on earth. It's going to be shit.
No, honestly, what both of these have said, especially Mark, I love you really, but Scott's point there was amazing as well. I just think the club have done very well. To be quite honest, when you think we could have lost Bruno, we maybe could have lost Isak. we've managed to shift who we've shifted for I'll come back to it again, a hell of a lot of money. Like, so
just to throw it in there though, you mentioned those two players, right? And we're thinking, yes, those were the ones we're worried about, but we're finding out that Anthony Gordon has been offered to Liverpool. I didn't even think about that.
I'm not
Gordon
sure about
he wasn't offered
that.
to
I'm not sure about
Liverpool
that.
inquired about him, apparently.
I think that's
the
what
way
it
around.
is.
No, so I think Edwards clarified it in a tweet afterwards, saying, just to clarify, nobody offered Gordon to Liverpool. Liverpool made the inquiry, as other clubs did when they realised what a mess we were in. People were inquiring about Isak, people were inquiring about Bruno, but Liverpool inquired about Gordon, and that's where it all came from. Newcastle weren't offering Gordon out to anybody.
Yeah,
and Newcastle made it pretty clear that Gordon wasn't. That's what it was. Yeah,
Vulture circling because they know that the situation that we find ourselves in, that we need to find £70 million out of thin air by midnight last night. Okay. So of course, like anybody, they're going to want to try and get a bargain. Well, if Newcastle are that desperate, then they'll sell whoever. It then turns out that Liverpool offered £2.50 for Anthony Gordon, so it was a non-starter. Had they have came in and been sensible about it and said we'll give you £150 million, then I think we could have found ourselves in a very different situation today than we have. But thankfully, we didn't have to come to that because we've managed to sort out a deal by getting rid of Minti and Anderson. And as we've already said, it's a horrendous situation to find yourself in because I would struggle to find a single person that would willingly want to sell those two players. We've been, as we've said, forced down into that. There would be a list of players, much, much further in advance of those two that you'd be wanting to get out of the door, but people don't want to buy them. It's not going to bring in the money that we need. You're effectively selling two of the people that can command a fee, but aren't going to damage the team and where we want to go this season dramatically.
Which I get, but the damage which we've seen now, Decker, is that the rumours are Anthony Gordon has had his head turned on the headlines. Okay, I'm taking that with a pinch of salt because he's a Liverpool supporter. So if Liverpool come asking, knocking on the door, his head is going to be turned slightly. He's probably going to entertain it, just like everybody else would for a boyhood club. Of course he would. But how long is it going to take before we're out of this position? Like, is it ever going to arise? Because obviously, the further we get in this journey, the more that other clubs above us are already long gone. They're already long gone. They're going to be even further in the future. It's like, does that ever stop?
Well, it's an awful situation in a sense because we were in that for years with Ashley, weren't we? In terms of, I go back to what's top of my head, Kabay, Demba Ba, these type of players. As soon as they got decent or good, you were like, oh, we're going to lose them straight away. And you think when the takeover happened, you're expecting to be in such a commanding position that, we'll never have to worry about this again. Now we're having to worry about it for such a stupid reason. Like, I'll come back to it again. I know I said it at the start, like, it's just so frustrating. but all we can do as a football club, right, is perform. That's all we can do. So if we are challenging for top four, Gordon's not going to want to not going to want to go anywhere else. Excuse me. Guinness throat. But yeah, so like, all we can do is try and compete as best we can. The fact that he loves it here, right? The fans are always massively behind him. There's not really much else that we can do, right? As a club. He would have been sold the project when he first came, right? Gordon was, he would have been sold exactly what it is, what the journey looks like, what we're trying to achieve, etc., etc. It is always difficult, as you've said, though, Chris, when the club you support comes for you. Or inquires, all right. If they inquire for you, it is difficult, right? But as I repeat, all we can do is just try and keep competing like we have been, and this is why next season's huge, right? We've said it before, but next season is massive because we've missed out on European football this time around. And I still think that'll be a positive in the long run. However, if it turns out not to be, well, then you have problems. Because you will have
there's no excuses. There's no excuses next season.
No, there's not.
To challenge what we did 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, but listen,
it's harsh to say that because we don't know what this season brings. Imagine we have another season of injuries like we did. Then there's excuses there.
Nah, I'm not like that. That seems like you're already going over. Excuse that, Mark. No matter. Right? Yes. If it's bullshit injury or plague of injuries, then yes, that's always going to be something to fall back on. But without European football, and a lot of people blame this European football for the injuries that were picked up. I don't think there's any excuse not to be in and around that top four, challenging for that top four from start to finish.
I'm not disagreeing. Honestly, I'm not. But I would imagine there's many Man United fans,
But
many years that have thought that them should be challenging. You know what I mean? And like you look at Arsenal not so long ago, them were finishing 7th and 8th. Like it's not easy.
Liverpool
right? Like,
last season, not the season just finished, the
the
one before.
Yeah.
There's always circumstances. Always
there is.
circumstances.
Now I'm with Chris though on the fact that I'm going into next season hoping top 5 minimum, right? That's what I'm hoping for. But can I see that not happening? Yeah, I probably can, to be fair, right? But to the point about Gordon and Bruno and Isak, in order for us to keep hold of them players with the restraints of PSR or whatever it is, we have to perform as a club. We have to do that, and that's what will keep them. If we're competing for honours and we're competing for European football, they'll stay 100%. But if the second we drop the ball on that or we don't succeed on that, that's when we're at risk of losing them.
I think if we're not challenging top, right, I'm saying challenging top 4, right? I know it's a hard ask to do that, right, from start to finish, right? But if we don't, and if we're not in those minimum of Europa spots, right, and finishing them, I'm saying it now, that's a failure of a season for us next year, no matter what happens.
What happens about the cups, mate? What happens if we win the FA Cup or the Carabao?
I think if you want to win one of the cups, I think you still have to finish in Europe. I think you still need to be in those European spots. I don't think it's one or the other. I'm not looking at winning the FA Cup and finishing.
You get Europe anyway.
Well, yeah, I get it, right, but your league position is crucial because it really does compare you to the rest of the teams in that league. Yes, you can have a great run in the cup and you can win the cup at the end of the day, but it's not really a good comparison to where you are as a football club, because we've seen some of the lesser sides win the cup. I hate saying that, but you know what I mean by that. I think
Man United won it and they finished. What was it? When they finished the season? Eighth, right? So like
just behind us.
Yeah, I get.
And they'll probably say that as a failure of a season. Like, for fine well, the fans will not be ecstatic about that. I don't think they will be. But that's probably obviously the longevity of what they've done over the years as a football club and so on and so on. I think, Deck, if we get a cup, right, a cup final, we'll win the cup. Yes, I'm taking it all day long. Like, I really am. But once again, yes, you do get European football for winning these competitions, depending on what happens in the rest of the league. But I think the league's so important. Like, yes, we all want to win a cup, and I'm not taking it away. Yes, of course, we want to win a cup. But I think the players want European football. I think winning a Carabao
Cup,
it.
They'll
not
get
from
it.
the Carabao.
Carabao Cup. Come on, if Bruno Isak win the Carabao Cup, that's not going to make them stay at this football club. Champions League football will.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, to be fair, I do. Now, 100%. Listen, I feel a little bit. What's the word? Nauseous? No, maybe not. But like, we're talking about getting a cup finally and winning the cup, right? We haven't kicked the ball yet. Like, we're still. To me, we're still Newcastle United, and I feel like just being able to say, "Yeah, if I win a cup, though, pump the brakes a bit. Like, it's not coming home just yet, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so. But I agree with.
But that's why I can't get why you're saying that there's no excuses for next season. I get it, right?
No,
because we 100%. Should be aiming to finish in those European places,
and that's
that is without a doubt a target. Yeah. But to say there's no excuse if we don't do it, and that you would still be unhappy if we didn't finish there, but we won a cup when we'd still get into Europe anyway. It's just
I'm looking at the players, the players' thought process, and that. If we want to come to this elite club, we need Champions League football. Like, we need that if we want to challenge, right? And this is what we all wanted when the takeover came through. We said we want to be the best of the best. And Manchester David came out and said we want to be up there with everybody else. Without Champions League football, you're not even close.
Well, I do think, regardless if we got Champions League football the time we did, the target this year would have been that. I feel like that would have been the trajectory we would have been on. I don't want to, as a fan, but I'm only one person, of course, but I don't want to go into the season thinking, yeah, top 4. Like, of course, I'd love it, but I don't want that to be the target, like, because that's a hell of a lot of pressure, right? But I would definitely, to Chris's point, and to a degree, is that it has to be European football, though. We have to finish in the top 6, like, and I'll come back to what I said 10 minutes ago. not having European football, I honestly feel, as disappointing it was at the time, will benefit with this season. I do think that.
I agree.
So,
and if it doesn't,
same.
it needs like go back to you, Mark. If it doesn't, then it needs a valid excuse as to why it hasn't.
Mark will hide behind injuries.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying that 100% that is the target and what we should be aiming for. But to sit here in July and say that there's no excuse if we don't do it, it's mad to suggest that, because you've got no idea what's going to happen.
Mark,
I get from a finishing, not having Europe should be a blessing in disguise, because we're not going to have any distractions. We're not going to have all of those extra games. We should be able to concentrate on the league position and qualify in those European positions, all things being equal, if we don't have a stupid injury record like we did last season. If we have a decent run in the cup, that could influence things. But again, if you get to a point where you're getting into cup finals, you're qualifying for Europe anyway. So again, you're still achieving what you set out to do, which is to qualify for Europe. I 100% want to be finishing in the top 6, but to sit here now in July and say there's no excuse if we don't do it, I think it's crazy, because we just don't know what's going to happen within the next 10 months.
So if Hull doesn't finish in the top 6,
we said that last season was a big blip, right? That last season was a big blip with injuries, right? If the same happens next season, we've got something wrong with this football club. If we're getting another injuries as what we did last season, that's your concern.
100%. But that would still be a reason why we didn't do it. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I get your point.
100% get your point, and you would just hope that we don't get anywhere near the problems that we did, because for Christ's sakes, we can't have another year like that. Sure to God, we can't.
Well, there's a great comment came in from Andy Emaze, and he says, guys, we've just finished 7th with a Champions League campaign, horrendous injuries. Just looking at that, right, and where we finished was a great achievement. So if you take Champions League football out of it, and if you take the shitty season which we had with injuries, it's
that's a great point.
And that's the bit I agree with. And that's the bit that I agree with. But we just don't know what will happen between now and then to completely railroad us there.
The other thing we
could sell. Somebody could come in and offer create like £150 million for Isaac before August. Somebody could come in and offer £150 million for Bruno.
And I'm burning this place to the ground.
But nobody knows what's round the corner. Now, if we've then got £300 million to spend, then wow, we can rebuild.
We're bringing in 5 keepers.
So, well, hopefully not, because PSL balance book would be lovely, wouldn't it?
Get Rudy up front, man. Be fine.
So, it's just, I get what you're saying. All things equal, there's no reason, I will say, that we shouldn't get to that, but there's just always that nagging doubt, isn't there?
I take the point that I'd obviously commented in there, saying absolutely correct, by the way. But then you'll also look at Spurs, Man United, Chelsea. All of them clubs will also think, well, this season, they'll have their reasons as to why as well. And like, I will say it, and I've said this before to you as well about when we finished 4th the last time. We capitalised on others as well, right? We were fantastic. We were amazing. We are class, right? I love we're the best, right? But there was a lot of teams that should have, or you would have expected, to be there, weren't, right? And we capitalised on that. Was amazing.
Chelsea and Liverpool were the two, weren't they?
Yeah, of course, absolutely, of course. And you would expect Chelsea and Liverpool to be there every single year. Well, certainly Liverpool, and they weren't, and we capitalised on that. But I don't know. I agree with Chris though, in the regard.
Then I think those.
What a surprise!
Yes, you look at season, and you've got to capitalise on things, right? And you look at Liverpool next season, and they're going through that transition season, obviously with Klopp going and Slot coming in. I think we've got to take advantage of that as well.
It depends how he starts. Depends how the players take to his style of play. Am I frozen?
No, you're all good.
No, I thought. Yeah, no, it depends how he starts. Depends on how the players take to him. Depends on what they do in this transfer window, and who he signs, who he sells. And we saw, what happened with Ten Hag when he came from the Dutch league and into Man U, and his style of play didn't really fit with the players that he had and with the league that he had. And it could be that it doesn't work in the Premier League. We've seen it with Dutch players. We know firsthand what it's like with Dutch players who are supposed to be these world beaters. They come to the club and they're not what we think they're going to be, and then they go back or they go to another league and they're world beaters again. And it seems to happen with managers as well as players. So we'll see what happens. I don't think it'll be the same with Slot. I think he's got a bit more to him than Ten Hag. From what I've heard, I've got friends who are Feyenoord fans and they're gutted. But we'll just have to wait and see with that one. I think, you do have to try and maybe capitalize on that. I think the thing that did us last season was the season before, when we finished 4th, we had a lot of draws. And what we needed to do last season was turn those draws into wins, and we didn't. Those draws were defeats, unfortunately. And if we can turn those defeats back into draws or wins, then we're going to be sound. On the point of, we're not going to have Champions League football, it was only 6 extra games, and I get there's travel and I get there's extra preparation. But if you have a good cup run, that's easy 3, 4, 5 extra games.
No, but I think the problem is when you've got Europe, though, you've then got 6 on top of that 5, and then you want to go for the Carabao, there's another 5.
Exactly.
So all of a sudden,
yeah.
do you know what I mean by that? Like,
exactly. No, yeah, I get what you're saying. But if we get to the final of the FA Cup and then we get to say the semis or the quarters of the Carabao Cup, that's extra games, season, that's those extra games that we're avoiding by not being in Europe. That's taken up straight away. So I don't know. I just think if we can avoid players having Bet365 accounts, and if we can avoid players being in that treatment room for as long as they were, then I'm not saying top 4 is a given, but easy 6th, 5th is what we should be aiming at. And I think that's what the owners are going to want. And I'm not saying, Staveley and the Rubens and that. I'm talking PIF. Like, for them, I think they're going to want European football every single season moving forward or bust. Like, and I think that's going to be from the manager, all the way down to the players. If you don't deliver European football, your head's on the, I'm not going to say head's on the line. That's probably the worst thing to say with our ownership. But you know what I mean? Like, people are going to start, seeing the door, because that's what the owners are going to want to start seeing, a return on their investment. They're going to start wanting to see, because after this transfer window, you're going to be looking at maybe a £500 million spend on transfers, and that's not including what they've spent on the actual club. They're going to want to see a
that's the
return
last
on
time that Scott ever comes on this podcast after that line.
That's something I'd say. That was amazing.
But to your point around PIF, like I think that they probably feel that, maybe it's not PIF because they're probably not that close to the day-to-day running of things, but the likes of Amanda, Mairdad, Jamie, who are there running it on a day-to-day basis, they probably feel that their hands are somewhat tied because of the situation that we find ourselves in with PSR, because without a doubt they'd want to be spending the money if they were able to do so. We'd be looking to progress, do more, looking to have that money available to us to spend, not having to worry about making sure that we hit that three-year window of 100 million. And I know you mentioned the fella before, Decker, in
Chris
Ashley.
is crying about Addison again, bless him.
It's we've still got this dark shadow of Mike Ashley hanging over us, despite the fact that he's been gone for 2.5 years now. Was it longer? God, it's his neglect of this club in his tenure is what has left us in this position, because we have just fell massively behind in our commercial revenue and commercial generation compared to the majority, and certainly the top, those teams that we want to be attacking and going after, finishing around, because they're light years ahead of us, because they haven't sat still, they haven't stagnated. We have, and it's, we've got rid of one of the his final things hanging over us there today, with the sign coming down on the east stand, but we've got this shadow of the neglect and stagnation of the club during his ownership, that is meaning we are having to sell these 2 players today in order to allow the new owners to spend money and take us forward.
I'll stick the knife in Ashley as much as anyone, but I will say it's probably it's the rules of what's come with football, like in terms of what the FA have done. I can't honestly sit here and say we're selling Minti and Anderson because I'm sorry, I can't. I don't think that's got much to do with him. I just think it's just the rules and this financial fair play that came about. I find a lot of clubs.
No, it's massively to do with him, though. Yeah, but it's massively to do with him. You can take direct correlation from where we were when he took over this club. Look at us, look at Spurs, look at the trajectory of we've gone and where they've gone.
Yeah, but
that side is 100%
how much
we've dragged our heels a bit though with like training kit sponsorship. Like we didn't have one last season. Before, yeah. We haven't got one this season. Like Decker's wearing a training top. There's no sponsor on it. I got one last season. There was no sponsor on it. Like we haven't had it.
Who's to say people are?
There's no naming rights on the stadium. There's no naming rights on the. But 2 seasons though. Like we've got someone in to deal with the commercial side. How can you go 2 seasons without having anything in place? Even if it wasn't just for like 5 million quid for a season, it all goes towards the financials, the commercials, the pot of money that goes towards PSR. Like you brought these people in to do that job. They're quite clearly not getting the right stuff, the right commercial deals in because, yeah, 1 season, fair enough. We didn't hit the deadline if there is one or whatever, but for us to go into this second year, we've got the kits out. They're in the shop. There's nothing printed on them. Like, if there is something coming in, you want to be selling those kits with the sponsorships on from day one. Like, Decker, you were in Munich the other week, and you were showing us pictures of the buying gear. You got the Audi sponsor on the sleeve. They had T-Mobile on the front. Like, multiple shirt sponsors on the training gear. Like, we should be all over that sort of stuff, and we're not. And
I can't disagree with Scott there. Like
that sort of stuff should be in place. Like it should have been in place last season, ready to go for the new Adidas gear coming out, ready to go. There's another 15, 20 million, whatever it is. Maybe it's off multiple season signings. There's Elliot Anderson staying at the club. Like that.
I mean, you would like to think the conversations have happened, right? I would say that. I would say they have. But no, I take your point completely. He's cut Mark off, so bye, Mark.
Mark's sick here. Sick here.
Oh, it's because I probably think I'm an Ashley sympathiser here, so he's left. But no, Scott, I'm absolutely with you, mate. Absolutely with you. And I thought this season we might have something. Now, and also in fairness, maybe to the club is the sort of the rule about sponsorship being linked with the club. Do you know what I mean? Like that's I honestly reckon if that hadn't have come about, my word, like everything would have been sponsored by something related, right? So maybe they've had their hands tied in a bit, but they've still had enough time. They've done a deal with Monster Arena, they're doing one with Phoenix. I mean, they've certainly been busy, right? They've been doing stuff. But no, I absolutely take the point. I don't do.
It's one of the drums I've keep beating on about sponsorship, and yes, with the last couple of seasons we've seen the same sponsors come in. Obviously, Fly Saudi has been one which his name gets thrown around quite a bit. I was expecting more. I can't lie. I don't think we can put ourselves on the same level as like Bayern Munich and what they've done because of obviously the history of that club and what they do in the German league. But having said that, we can still bring sponsors in. We're not going to bring the same value as what they are, but we could still bring some in, and everything helps. Everything helps towards us being able to spend money in the future.
Or even just Seller. Even just have Seller on it. We've got Seller as the sponsor on the shirt.
That's a bit more money.
Have it on the training gear for like an extra 5 million, whatever.
I thought that.
I mean, I'm not sure that's as easy it works, but
yeah, I thought that. Put them on the training gear, then you can then showcase that to your next sponsor, potential sponsor, and go, look, this is what it'll look like. This is the amount of coverage you'll get, etc., etc. That's what I thought. Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Hello, Mark. Welcome back, mate.
I'm back. God knows what happened there.
Sorry, Mark.
One of the things that I do want to talk on and talk about here is we have brought a couple of players in as well. We've bolstered with ranks when it comes to goalkeepers because we lost a couple of goalkeepers. In fact, no, we lost one, didn't we? Carrius went. But we brought 2 new ones in. I'm saying new ones. They're not really new, are they? Really,
brand spanking.
They're new to us. They're new to us.
They're new to us. Yes, they are new to us. Do you think that's just a case where we're expecting Dubravka to go as well now? Dubravka's days are probably numbered, and we've got a couple of keepers to fall back on. But having said that, I think if that is the case, where obviously the 2 keepers were brought in, Ruddy being one of them, let's say Dubravka leaves. We spoke about this in our WhatsApp group today, in the GallowgateShots WhatsApp group, and it's probably weakened your goalkeeping, really, hasn't it? Like,
well, that's
I don't think you can look at it in a way. I think it has weakened it, no matter what. I think you definitely think it hasn't.
Yeah, well, you know, I think it has personally. Yes, I do. And one of the points that I'll make about the lad coming in, and I certainly don't want to knock a player that hasn't even pulled on the shirt yet, hasn't even played, hasn't put his gloves on. But if you're behind Matt Sells, like, you know, I haven't got much faith, like, if I'm being really honest, because I've seen Matt Sells live a few times and he wasn't very good. So if he comes in and he's Dubravka's replacement, do I think he's a step up in Dubravka? I'm not qualified, but I'm not so sure he is, to be quite honest with you, right? Ruddy, I haven't listen, right? Like,
it's third choice, isn't he?
He is, but I'll also laugh at the side of me cheek and say, well, when we got taken over, did I think we'd be signing Ruddy in 2024? The answer would have been no. But I'll take that one on the chin and understand the pecking order of where he's going to be.
Do you kind of look at that one, Dig? I'm thinking Man City and Scott Carson.
That's how I always look at it. It's the link straight away that everyone said he's just our Scott Carson, which is fine, right? Listen, I'm not even going to have a problem with the Ruddy situation. But on names on a piece of paper, I do think we're weaker. I do. And I also, age is a concern for me because Pope's not getting any younger. He's having another serious injury that he's coming back from. I mean, well, I'll ask the question to you. On face value, would you prefer Dubravka to be your second choice? Now, mind you, I criticised Dubravka and said how big of a drop that is from Pope to Dubravka. But would you rather have Dubravka than the lad that we've just brought in from Forest, who's going to be with number 2, right? Clearly,
it's hard to say because I think last season obviously we're in that position where you big chunk of your season, your number 2 goalkeeper was in goal. You don't really see it very often. Yeah, it's very rare that that'll happen. I think, do you know what it is? I had my heart set on Georgia's keeper, who's had a fantastic season. Mamadishvili, absolutely fantastic tournament he has at the Euros. But obviously the rumours was 40 mil that was going to be for him. And you're thinking, you're probably taking a big chunk of money that you can spend on that right-hand side that we're always looking at improving. We have done for a number of years. But the more I see him, bring him in. Like, dude, I wouldn't be shocked. If we go in for him again, I wouldn't be shocked if he comes in and we'll look at selling Nick Pope. I wouldn't be shocked.
Would have to, because he wants guaranteed first team football. He turned down Bayern Munich last season because they couldn't give him first team football. The rumours already turned down us when we came in from originally because we couldn't guarantee him first team football. So if we go back in for him, we have to say to him, look,
he has to be your number 1.
You're number 1.
And rightly so.
And Nick Pope is either out the door or he's, drops down the rankings, which he's not going to want to do unless his shoulder is as bad as we think. I think the new guy, Vlachodimos, I don't know, I'm going to take a leaf.
Glad you said it, not Martin.
Try and pronounce it.
Vlachodimos and Pliers.
Vlachodimos and Pliers, yeah. I mean, he played 5 league games for Forest last season and kept 1 clean sheet, which is okay. But then they did get beat 5-0 by Fulham in his last game for them. The season before Benfica, though, he played 37 games and kept 20 clean sheets. So I know that's a completely different league. But, he was their number 1 keeper for like 3, 4, 5 years. So I think we're getting a decent keeper. We were linked with them 2-3 seasons ago, and they wanted 60 million for him.
Times, yeah.
So
how much?
There's some 60 million they wanted for him. So there's something there. He's a decent keeper. I think he's just hitting a bad bit of form. So
must have the same agent as Anderson.
I think if we can get a song out of him, maybe he's decent. He's only 29. For a goalkeeper, that's no age. So, he's 30 now. I think he turned 30 like this year. So
he's 29 until he turns 30.
Yeah, I think he has
That's how it
turned
works.
just turned 30. But yeah, that is how it works, funny enough. So I think he's okay. I think for Ruddy, he's a glorified traffic cone. He's literally there to do training drills.
Jesus.
No. And I mean, I don't mean that there's any disrespect. He will not make the reserve bench.
What? Well, you've tried
He's
your
not going to make
hardest.
the reserve bench. He is there to
tried
do
your
training
hardest.
drills
A
because Eddie
glorified
Howe wants
traffic
4
cone,
goalkeepers.
Scott.
So he doesn't
Can I-
take away any of the youth team or anything like that. He's just going to be there to do training drills.
What
Same as
respect
what
did you
I would-
mean?
what I
respect
would
did
say
you
on-
mean, Scott, by the
Goalkeepers.
traffic cone? What did you, if there was no
No, he's just
disrespect,
going
what
to be there
respect were you meaning?
to kick the ball at Nick Pope or Dubravka, whoever says number 2, during the training sessions. He's not going to be anywhere near the first team. He's not going to be there on match day unless we
I
have
think
serious
the
injury
interviews,
issues.
The interviews which we've seen, he came in for his leadership
And he
qualities.
knows
I
that.
think
He knows
that's
exactly
fair
what
to
he's
say.
there. That
Very
interview
similar to what
says
Rafa
that,
did
yeah.
when Rafa brought in, what's he called? Spanish centre back.
Jesus.
Gomez.
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 Jesus Gomez.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it's very similar, that one.
If you haven't seen it, watch the Ben Foster podcast with Ruddy, because I think the way he speaks in that, he obviously talks about how he came to leave Birmingham and stuff like that, but how he comes across is fantastic. He 100% he's there more from a coaching point of view, experience point of view, bringing on, pushing. It's not that long ago we were linked with signing Ben Foster, and we were going to have him there.
Yeah.
Based on and we know he then went he retired and ended up at Wrexham, and now he's on the podcast. It's a very, very similar type of appointment where you bring him in for the experience. He's in there, he's helping the younger lads come through and stuff like that. He's had a long career.
He's 80-year-old. He's got a long
Birmingham.
career.
You go at where he's been at before there. He's played in the Premier League. He's played for at clubs to a good standard. People are just looking at the fact that his career, because he is knocking on in age.
38, isn't he? Yeah.
But with that experience, you get a whole host more stuff. So to Scott's point, he's not getting he's getting nowhere near the first team unless something massively goes wrong.
Just to throw something else in the mix, yeah. What's the point in Gillespie then? Like, what is the
he's
point
not
in
getting
him?
ahead of Gillespie though. If he gets in the team ahead of Gillespie, there's something seriously wrong.
Roddy and Gillespie's like still getting ahead of him.
He was a free transfer. He's costing him now. He's on like $8,000 a week or something. He'll be costing him absolutely nothing.
$8,000 a week. What's that Roy Keane joke? What's he do? Is he a good singer or something? Karaoke singer or whatever it was?
Like I said, he's a glorified traffic cone. He's there for training. He's there to help. He's there to do
what Gillespie is?
Listen, no, but I'll
not
go back to what I
Gillespie,
said.
Ruddy, man.
I'll go back to what I said when Chris asked us a question. This is why I think we're weaker, because Gillespie, in my opinion, is now third choice. So, of course, Pope's number 1. We've got the Forest lad. I'm not going to try and pronounce his name. And then we've got Gillespie and then Ruddy. Mm-hmm. That, to me, is worse than what we've had.
But was Karius ever going to get in the side other than there being a massive injury or...
Yeah, but
he played two games in 24 months.
Would you describe Karius as a glorified traffic cone?
No, but what I'm saying,
he may as well have been.
No, but
he never played. He played 2 games.
No, but Karius
was a lot of money.
You're basing that on his previous performances of what he had, of where his career was going before that night in the Champions League.
The 2 performances he had for us.
No, what's to say? Gillespie doesn't go in there and has a world or a Ruddy, by some.
If Gillespie is our, no matter what happens, right? If we have to rely on Gillespie,
but that's the whole point. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen.
It did happen.
How can you say that
happen again?
Karius rocked out in the cup final.
But then I said there's no excuses. I said there's no excuses for not getting top 4, and now he's saying, well, it could happen. Well,
and apparently it's fine. Apparently
if that happens, we're not getting top 4 because that's our excuse.
Right, listen. I'm going to say it again then, right? So, Scott, yes or no? Is them 4 goalkeepers that we have now, this current factual moment, better than last season? Yes or no?
I think it's like for like in terms of what it's going to bring to the side.
Yes or no?
I think it's the same.
Okay, Mark?
I think you're being harsh on what a good keeper Ruddy is for his age.
But we're saying he's 4th choice.
I'd say he's third. Like, to be fair, I think he'd be
how
third
bad is
choice.
Gillespie then? How bad? If Scott thinks he's a traffic cone, Scott thinks he is a traffic cone, and he's ahead of Gillespie.
I understand why
traffic
Scott. I
cones, even worse.
understand why Scott's saying that, because he wants to come in. He's coming in to train with the lads, bring them on, develop them.
I get it, yeah.
Right, so I'm going to say it again.
He's a traffic cone. That's an actual a decent keeper.
Pope, Dubravka, Karius, Gillespie. Is that better than the 4 that we've got now? Yes or no?
I'm with Scott. I think it's very, very similar. You can't tell me that Karius has shown anything in the last, I would say, 5 years.
Well,
to say that he's a better keeper than. Exactly. So what has he done in the last 5 years to say that he's a better goalkeeper than Ruddy is? Ruddy, who's played consistently at clubs in that time. He's played in the Premier League. He's played in the Championship. Karius couldn't get a team. Karius was unemployed. Now, admittedly, he came here. The couple of games that he came in, he did very well.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got, if you look at it, just those 2 games, you think he's, there's a keeper in there. We didn't see him for any length of time or anything like that.
Hey, do you know what it is? He used to sit there, Mark. You used to sit in the studio and defend Karius like there was no tomorrow.
And
now because we've signed Kane, he all of a sudden he's gone.
I like Karius.
That was a wrestling joke, but
the thing is he was never going to get anywhere near the first team.
Well,
despite the fact I would have had him in there ahead of Dubravka. Dubravka's gone. Dubravka will be gone.
I'm aware of that.
And that's where I think we'll need to bring in a player, another keeper.
What if Dubravka doesn't go? What if Dubravka stays?
Nah, he's not. He's gone.
You have my life,
and that's where the Greek fella's taken over from Dubravka, isn't he?
So hold on a second here. I'm just going to repeat what I said before. The 4 goalkeepers we've got now, are them better? Yes or no, than the 4 we've had last season? The answer is they're the same, but we've got to sign.
We've got 5 goalkeepers now, haven't we?
Hang on. But you're saying we've got to sign another one.
No, we've got 5 keepers now.
I don't care if we've got 48. You've just said we've got to sign another goalkeeper. Is that what you've just said? You think we've got to sign another goalkeeper? Is that what you said?
No, I'm saying if
however,
because you're taking the Forest goalkeeper out of the equation here, aren't you?
No,
you're not mentioning him.
Hang on,
you're focusing on Karius and you're focusing on Karius and Ruddy.
I'll repeat. Let me repeat again. I'll give you it again, Mark. Here we go.
But you keep saying our 4 goalkeepers we've got at the minute. We've got 5. That's what I'm saying.
I'll give you it again, man. I'll give you it again. Listen, we've got Pope and goal, right? The Forest goalkeeper is my number 2. Okay. Then I think it'll be Gillespie, then Ruddy. That's what I think, right?
So what's happened to Dubravka then?
Dubravka's gone.
As you have suggested multiple times while we've been discussing, he is history. He's gone. That's what you've said multiple times, right? So I'm believing you with that. So the 4 goalkeepers we have now on the books, Pope, I won't pronounce his name, the Forest keeper, Gillespie, I think will be 3rd, then Ruddy. Is that better or worse than the 4 we had last season? Pope, Dubravka, Karius, Gillespie. That's my question.
Same.
So you're saying it's the same, but then 2 sentences ago, we need to sign another goalkeeper. Well, why? Why have we got to sign another goalkeeper? It has to be worse. Surely.
No, well, that was based on the fact that we weren't talking about having the Forest keeper there. But if he's there and he signs, then
right now, like I'm so confused. I need a flow chart.
Thanks, Scott. You heard, right? Scott, you heard, didn't you? Scott knew, didn't you? Surely, you knew what I was trying to say.
I knew what you were trying to say. I don't know where you got the fact that we were not including the Greek guy.
Exactly. Yeah.
We didn't mention the Greek guy because we were talking about the 4 keepers that we've got.
We did. I said multiple times.
Whatever. I think right. So
What's
I think
What's the comment saying?
We're not all under the same impression that Dubravka's probably gone, because if Dubravka's not going to be out, you're not going to bring those 2 goalkeepers in.
Rumored to go to Celtic, isn't he? I think Celtic was sniffing
Well, you're not going to bring 2 goalkeepers in if Dubravka's staying, because then you've got 5. Like, nobody has 5 goalkeepers. Doesn't
I
happen.
agree with that. Yeah,
Doesn't happen. So you're going to be looking at the club are going to openly be looking at selling Dubravka, and I think it was rumored last season as well that obviously not just Longo, we loaned him out, man. So he's off.
I know.
He's off, right?
And that's the only reason Curry's got a game, by the way, is because we loaned him out.
Yeah,
but we'll not open that can of worms.
Well, I still think Karius is better than Gillespie. I think he's better than him, right? So
everybody agrees that.
Well, this is what Decker's saying. Decker's saying is if Gillespie is overtaking Karius in the ranks, right? And now we're saying Karius was better.
No, well, that's what I'm saying, because your third will be Ruddy. And Gillespie will still stay at 4th.
Goodness me.
So you're going to have Pope number 1. Nick the Greek is number 2.
Nick the Greek.
Third will be Ruddy. And 4th will be Gillespie.
But where's Mohamedashvili going?
He's not going anywhere.
For a split second, I went, that's not how you pronounce that lad from Forest, is it?
Right. I'm going to move on because we've got another couple of talking points.
Top and bottom if it is, though, before we do move on. Had we have signed Tosin, we would have signed that keeper and he'd be here now. Again, PSR rules, the fact that we're having to now be careful with how we spend our money means that the potential signings that we would have been making are now out the window. Which brings us back to PSR, brings us back to the fact that we were going to bring in, strengthen the defence by having 2 free transfers come in. We're now having to be careful because we now need to bring in we now need to bring in a central defender because we're going to have to spend money there now when we were hoping we didn't, which means the keeper's out of the window. Hence, we've now gone and signed Ruddy and Nick the Greek when we wouldn't have had to had situation been different.
I'm not going to lie, I am sick to death of talking about goalkeepers now. Let's move on a little bit. Okay,
is that why Bestie's not here this week? He's signed for them now.
Throw Dahl in the mix as well. Bestie will be off on one.
Bestie could tell some great stories. He's much better than Ruddy. Surely, you get him in along with the players, you'd have them laughing. The team morale would be amazing.
He's more like a
Steve. We need training done now. It'd be like a Steve Bruce training session.
One of the things which you do mention as well, Mark, I'll come back to you, is finally it's done. Ashworth has gone. Settled the deal, which nobody knows. Everything's getting kept hush hush. It's everything's confidential. The club have announced very, very brief statement, which the club have announced. Saying now the search starts to replace him. How long are you expecting this search to take? Or
I think the search has been happening. In fairness, we were linked with what's his chops that actually has now went to Man United anyway from Southampton, weren't we? So I think we've already.
You don't get this from any of that podcast. But now people, what's his?
I cannot remember his name. The ex-player that used to play in the 90s in the Premier League. Who was at Southampton. Somebody in the comments will tell us his name because I cannot for the life of us remember it. Mike Williams, God knows.
What? Sorry, what was the question? Say it again. I know the answer. What was the question? What did you say?
The fella that's gone to Man U.
Oh, Jason Wilcox.
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 Yeah,
left
there you go.
Blackburn, yeah.
See? Told you he was a midfielder back in the 90s, didn't I? I knew exactly who he was. Just couldn't think of his name. So I think we'll have been doing bits and pieces in the background, identifying people who could potentially come into that role. Obviously, we just needed to get to a position. And again, I think we've been pretty clever with the fact that we've gotten to today, 1st of July, again, coming back to that PSR, them 3 letters that we won't ever be able to forget of now the deal that we've agreed is in this new financial year. So again, that'll be classed as a profit from that side of things because it's money coming in. But
do you not think that's because Man United just didn't want to help her? I've read it that way, that Man United didn't want to give her the money because they knew it would help her. Does that make sense? That's how I've read it.
I think they offer knowing that we were desperate for money. I don't know how they've known that. They obviously had someone on the inside.
Oh, guess who?
Yeah. And they've lowballed the offer, and then when we haven't folded, they went, all right, then we'll give you
to do
whatever it was.
To do it the day after.
Yeah.
The day after, that to me just screams at them. Knew exactly what predicament we're in. They didn't want to try and help her out.
Tried the look.
Of course they have. Of course they have, yeah.
Yeah, wait until
Which is
final
the
minute
same
to see what can come
situation
up.
with Gordon, isn't it? They're trying to look, they're wanting to do a deal on the cheap, thinking that we're desperate to do it, which is, again, fair play to the owners. They've held the ground on it. We're now into that new financial year. We don't know how much the figure is. I think it's, again, what we've said over the last couple of weeks. You knew this situation would come around. Would agree on a figure that was somewhere between the two valuations of the clubs. That's how negotiations work. It's just a shame that it's taken months and months of this to happen. It's taken that arsehole to be on the news every 5 minutes, giving ridiculous interviews. I'm not talking about Decker. I'm talking about the owner of Man United.
He's a tosser as well.
Not
So, I mean, the entitlement that comes out of that bloke's mouth every time he opens it is absolutely ridiculous.
Once
the way he
again,
talks about
not
Alan
Decker.
Saint-Maximin, for a start. Nah, he's like, yeah, man.
His last one was very bad.
Sort yourself out. It's horrendous. It's absolutely horrendous. Like everything about him, every time he opens his mouth, it's just something stupid that comes out. And so is Jim Radcliffe.
Do you know what? Like, I'm quite like, I like to think I'm quite open about certain stuff. So like, if he's not happy with the fact that Newcastle are holding out for loads of money, am I surprised he's annoyed with that? No, like that doesn't bother me that he's annoyed. But the term he made about gardening leave, saying this term gardening leave, I've never heard of that before.
Never heard of it.
Like,
never experienced it.
Come on, yeah. You know what I mean? That's what annoys it. And then that huge, I think it was the most highlighted thing of the whole lot, but was about the top six. Like, basically, don't piss off the top six. Allow us to do what we want to do to continue to make your league great. That was disgusting. Like, and I think
especially when finished 8th.
Well, good point, Scott. Good point. Yeah.
Well, he kept on saying
in the top six. What you
No, he didn't say
the big
top
six, wasn't it? He said,
He was saying big six and established or something daft like that, and whatever. You
and it fuels that fire, doesn't it? That fire has been, a lot of fans, always say that, don't they? It's only to protect them, and that sort of has gathered momentum for so long. Certainly over our takeover and stuff. And then when you hear him,
it's stupid that he's coming out and saying, "Oh, I've never heard of garden experience." If you'd done any sort of research into Dan Ashworth's history, you would have realised he was on garden leave when he came to Newcastle United. So he didn't even look a year back.
I mean,
as much as I don't
do garden leave to their own staff.
Well, that's what I was going to say. He's a very successful businessman, right? He is. And he knows what gardening leave is. Like, of
course he does.
But the way he said it as well, like, I've never heard this term gardening leave until I got involved with football. I was like, wow, you're embarrassing yourself, yeah, mate. Like,
bell end. Absolute bell end. And do you know what it is? He's only going to get worse, Decker. The further his feet get on that table, the worse he'll get. An absolute tosser.
Now, what I do want to say, though, is really credit us as a club, though, for doing that, for really sticking to our guns and saying, listen, he's going to sit there on gardening leave for a year and a half, if that's what it takes. Unless you give us what we want. So I think it'll be neck 15 million, like, personally. So I think.
Do any of you have anything you'd like to add before we call night? Before we jump across the Josh Stockton has sent in another donation.
Oh, he's with me dad. Picture of me dad.
He says, "Hi lads, hope you're well. All the NUFC drama today, and I still can't think of a question. I've been watching some of the old pods at the weekend. They are gold. Sending love as always. Thanks very much, Josh. Pleasure as always.
Josh, you want to get yourself out more, man, son. Honestly, you don't want to be sitting watching idiots like us. I know the weather wasn't our great at the weekend, but thank you.
It's only 20 to 10, right? And you called at the start here that this was a COVID podcast, and I've got COVID, right? So I feel sorry for us here. Let's couple of questions. There must be some questions in there.
If
go
there are
caller 2.
Yeah, if there are any questions, okay, send them our way. We'll go for another 5-10 minutes. Become a member as well. We're not going to extend the time that we used to
10
do,
o'clock.
because
10
that
o'clock.
used to be ridiculous. But we'll go for another 5 minutes. We'll see what we can do. To be fair, a lot of the comments which have been coming in, it's probably stuff that we've already covered in quite a bit of detail. A couple of mentions about the training ground and why we haven't really had any sort of update in regards to what's happening to the training ground, because yes, we've got that initial makeover, but we didn't hear anything on the back of that. So obviously we've seen the videos and we saw what happened when Gordon arrived at the club and how good it looked like inside and what they had done with the makeover and the revamp of it. But has it been shelved? Like what's happening now? Is it just ongoing? It is one of those things which is just disappearing in the shadows a bit, isn't it?
Is there much else to show? I mean, they've shown the inside. What are they going to show next? Like, oh look, we've got new grass.
Well,
Like,
the plans were to stay
they're
on
gonna
that site
build a
for a
new one.
little bit,
Yeah.
then build a new one. You
No,
what?
they've
2
said
years?
they announced that they were going to stay there for the short to medium term, but the long term plan was to move to a purpose built facility. So I can see us being there for another 2-3 years. In that time, what you've got to think is we've also got this whole stadium debacle that's going on at the minute as well, around the feasibility studies and whether or not we can extend or whether we move and stuff like that, because it's not just one thing that they've got to look at. They're looking at the entire infrastructure of the stadium, the training ground, chuck into that the academy, where we know we've got to do, a lot of investment there, because for all of the reasons that we discussed right at the start of this podcast, that is the money generator within this club. As Chelsea have seen, as Man City are seeing, that's where you get your value, because anything that you do with the youth that's coming through is pure profit. And whether we like it or not, based on where football is and where it's going, that's how you're going to make your money. And I guess technically in football, you've always done that.
I was going to say that.
The difference is, if you've always wanted to try and keep a hold of your young players that you bring through and hope they turn into something, wonderful that can get there. But how many times have we seen players that we've brought through and then go on and we've had to then move them on and they've gone to other clubs to have a career and stuff like that? So
you have to be careful though with the infrastructure stuff, because the UEFA FFP rules now include
slightly different,
your infrastructure. So any building work you do on your training ground, your stadium, even for your youth team and your women's team and all that sort of stuff, they now all are included in your FFP budget for your entire squad.
How can you?
I don't know, but that's like, I think that came last season. So I think that's probably put a little pin in a few little things, because we got Champions League last season. We had to maybe think, do you know what? We're maybe going to have to watch it in case we get European next season. Who knows? Maybe he's on the brink of that.
How long have we got? We've got 4 minutes. And surprisingly, actually, in my opinion, we haven't talked about one subject. England.
That's because we don't want. Why would we want to talk about that? Jesus, I'd rather talk about goalkeepers again.
No, but hey, listen, we're in the quarterfinals, right?
Yeah.
Just
we're in the quarter. We're in the hat, right? If Newcastle had to scrape through and we got to the quarters, hey, we're still there. And that's terrible.
I said this in the group last night. Winning ugly, it's tournament football. It doesn't really matter. If you get there, it doesn't matter. Yes, the group stages were poor. That game last night. It feels so long.
We had their pants down last night. We absolutely had their pants down.
Absolutely nicked it, right? And the most infuriating thing, and I think we're probably all in agreement, is the elephant in the room. It's not even an elephant in the room. It's about 20 in the room now, but that left-hand side, it's still that point where everybody's looking at and thinking, that left-hand side, why is it not being addressed? I don't think it'll ever get addressed this tournament. I think that's the team that he's going to stick with, and he has trust in that team. Don't agree with it, but I think we're not seeing Gordon. If Gordon didn't get a chance, didn't even get a minute yesterday, I went screaming out for him. We're not seeing him.
Yeah, I think for me, I've got massive shades of the Lampard Scholes situation. You remember when we couldn't really fit them all in, so we just hide Scholes out there for a little bit. And I'm feeling like that again. And I think, do you know what it is, right? It's brave or stupid, isn't it? But it's probably stupid. But he can stick with the team that he wants to stick with, right? Which I disagree with. But okay, right, he can. But the thing I got to know with yesterday, right? At half time, you're 1-0 down, right? You go in at half time. Now, I would have thought that the opinion to them players are, you've got 10, 15 minutes to sort it out. Get out there and put it right. We're talking 71, 75 minutes here. Still the same 11 players. That's what shocks me, is the changes. That's all that annoys us. The lineup does annoy us a little bit, but it's the lack of substitution and action in game. That's what annoys us the most. And I mean, apparently Tony had a go at him, didn't he? He's kind of said that as well. Southgate had the hump with him when he asked him to come on the pitch, like so late on, and Tony was like, "No, I'm not coming on." Like, and so Southgate had to G him up to come on, and it turned out obviously they won the game. But I do agree with what you're saying. Gordon, to me, it would help Trippier out a lot and all, you know, because he'd be able to have someone there with him, whereas Foden's coming inside all the time. It's such an unbalance, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's frustrating. Do you know what it is?
But we're through, though. We're through.
It's frustrating for Gordon as well, because after such a great season, he was probably going in that tournament. I think I'll probably get a fair few minutes under my belt, yeah. And not just in the dying minutes of the game. What, you got 3-4 minutes of that night in the group game, the last group game. But
you got 1 minute, I think, and he created more chances than about 3 or 4 players in that 1 minute. I don't understand what is, like, if you ask Southgate, like, why you're not playing him, like, what could possibly be his reason?
Bit of a piss take. Like, he keeps on throwing him out in front of the media as well to do the interviews. Known for
I heard it was because he kept falling off his bike. He's been hanging around with Darryl too much.
Oh, he's absolutely smashed a bit.
Smashed a bit.
But it's, do you know what it is? I don't think we'll see any changes come Saturday. Switzerland has been a very, very tough game as well.
Well, Trippier might be injured. That's one of the rumours, isn't it? Which is, you know, great, isn't it? Another
why don't we
Newcastle
Luke
player.
Shaw?
So,
stupid.
Yeah,
well,
he's going to make one change at least, because is it Gay's suspended, so
he's suspended as well.
That's a huge loss, that, you know. That's a huge loss.
I've been impressed with him, to be fair.
We're already struggling. We're struggling at centre half. I mean, we're struggling at left back that much. Saka had to go there at obviously the last game there he went left back, so it's gonna be tough. But I appreciate some people don't really care if England win or lose, like, but I don't know. I just, when you get the quarterfinals, you know, it just you're getting there. Like, but mind you, when you come against the likes of Spain, man, my goodness me. Who's that?
We've got Switzerland in the next game. Who, you know,
the Swiss press is going to be very hard.
Switzerland being
press the hell out. We'll just not be able to keep the ball. I think, to answer your question, Decker, about what do you think it is, it's very reminiscent of when Steve Bruce was our manager and he just kept putting out the same team week after week and refused to make changes. And I think it's a case of he thinks what he's doing is the right thing.
I do think it's stubborn.
It's very stubborn. Yeah, he's very, very stubborn.
Every manager's stubborn.
Well, I don't know, because you watch the pundits at half time, and every one of those pundits was it Gary Neville, Ian Wright, and Roy Keane. We're all going, he needs to make 3-4 changes at half time.
Yeah.
He needs to change this up completely. And then when they come out, go, there's no changes. Everyone's like, what? Why is there no?
Yeah, but that's the guy. I think every single manager is stubborn. Every manager has favourites.
It came off in the end, but I mean, you're talking dying embers, and it took something special. No one could have predicted in the 94th, 5th minute there's going to be an overhead kick from a throw-in to keep you in the game, and then you're going to score a goal in the first minute of extra time. Like, no manager in the world is going to go, well, that's how it's going to play out, and now this is my plan, and that's how it's going. No, like, he got lucky. And he's riding his luck, and I think, to be honest, he just wanted that to be over with. And he's like, I'm done here. I've checked out. Like, I'm done with England. I'm not being the England manager anymore. Like, I'm just, get me out here. And he didn't want this next game. And I think we're going to see the exact same lineup.
I disagree with that. I think every single manager wants to go through. Every single, no matter what they want to go through. He's making the wrong choices, but he still has confidence that team.
He would make the changes if he wanted.
I agree. I think the last 10 minutes he gave up.
He's gone, like,
he brought Tonio, man. He brought Tonio with a minute to go. So how's he giving up? I don't understand how he can be giving up.
How is giving him a minute going to impact the game?
No, I'm not disagreeing.
Make the change earlier.
It did.
It didn't.
No, but it did.
Well, he said
involved.
Like, so in fairness, it wasn't fair.
I'm not justifying it. I'm not justifying it, but I don't think any single manager wants out of a game. Nah, and out of a tournament, not a chance.
I think he'd mentally checked out. If your role as that manager is to impact that game, I get that he's got a trust in the players that he had on the pitch, thinking that the team that he's chosen and selected is enough to do a job and to get out and to qualify. To go out and win that game, it wasn't happening. It needed wholesale changes, and when you're getting to that point where I think Tony was the right substitution to make up front, because Kane wasn't doing anything, and I think it was crying out for somebody with a bit of strength to hold the ball up and stuff like that. So, but just do it sooner. He was living in blind hope that we would get something out of that game based on having the players there on the pitch, rather than him actively trying to impact the game by making positive substitutions.
Well, in his brain, right? And I get what you're saying, right? Because I'm in agreement. Changes should have been made a lot earlier. Of course, it should have been. But in his mind, he has so much trust in these players, rightly or wrong. That's his choice. But I don't think he's gave up. I think he just thinks that any of the players on the bench just won't make a change. Where everybody else is screaming, yes, they will. But that his blind stupidity is the reason for it. It's nothing to do with not wanting to win a game.
And he shouldn't have brought them. And he should have stuck with.
Well, you need a squad. You can't just take 11
yeah,
players.
But he dropped the players that he normally takes. He didn't bring Grealish. He didn't bring Henderson. Like he didn't bring his usual fodder that he would be bringing on the bench.
Maguire's the one.
Maguire's injured, so that's the
Maguire 100% would have been in that team.
Yeah, true.
The only grasp of hope you've got is that the players on the pitch, when they won that game, you could see them actually thinking, "Oh, okay, like we got through that," and you could see it uplifted them a little bit, and it gave them actually a little bit of hope, and maybe they're going to go to that next game with actually the tails like up high, and they're actually going to give the Swiss a bit of a game. But it's going to have nothing to do with Southgate. It's going to be the players playing for themselves and playing for each other, not playing for the manager. Maybe we'll see them kick on a little bit and actually give the Swiss a good game.
Well, Rice said in his interview, and he was I thought was quite telling, that he said that we'll do anything for this manager, which I found quite surprising, if I'm honest, that he said that. But he was quite defiant in what he said. But Southgate might argue back and say, well, I brung Eze on, I brung Gallagher on, I brung Tony on, I brung... Help us out. He brung someone else on, didn't he? Palmer. He brung Palmer on. So he could retaliate. Listen, I'm saying Southgate should have brung things on earlier. I feel like I'm apologising for him, but he could say that though, right? Like, I brung Palmer on, I brung Eze on, I brung Tony on, who changed the game, and etc. etc. Like, do you know what I mean?
How can you change a game with 45 seconds to go?
Well, he won the game. It did, because he won the game, though. He won the game, technically. His header won the game, right?
It should have been done and dusted well before then. It should have been, yes.
For me, the result was in spite of Southgate, not because of him.
But how can you say that when he brought Tony on and Tony had an influence on winning that game? He did though, Mark. I'm in agreement. I don't want Southgate to.
I don't know many players that don't look slow, to be fair.
You cannot tell me that bringing Tony on was an inspired substitution for that goal. It was blatant luck.
I'm not saying that.
Substitution, not luck.
Yeah.
No, because you're bringing on a substitution to impact and change the game. You're giving them time to do that. He did. He did not impact that game in any way other than winning that head. That
pushed it the extra time. Come on, Mark. Like I'm with you, right? I'm with you to a certain degree. That the change was late, right? But you can't say that substitution did have any impact on the game. Like,
he's right. Like, you can't miss.
No.
I saw it bounce off his head.
I'll give you this. It changed the result of the game. Because he came on and
the biggest thing
obviously had that.
But
it did. The game, the direction of the game and stuff like that, he didn't have an impact on it because he wasn't there long enough.
I think we can all agree though that we have to improve if we're going to be better. Like, we'll have to. And I'm not sure we can. And to be fair, I did say this when we got through. Of course, I was happy, right? But part of us thought, if we come across a good side, we could get absolutely battered. Like. And I mean, like an embarrassing scoreline. Because in fairness, I know them took the lead and it was 1-0, but them could have been 2 or 3 up. I thought them had some wonderful moments on the counter attack that they just didn't take. But if you're against a good opposition, I mean, imagine if Spain gets all over, man. And I appreciate that would be late on in the doors. It'd be the final, obviously. If that was the case. Yeah. But if it was, you
difference with that, Degger, is how much we've sat back in games, right? The difference you saw Georgia yesterday went for it. Absolutely went for it. Took the lead. Then, like 30th minute in, they were blowing up losses if they'd played like 4 days worth of football in one. We don't do that.
So sometimes though as well, and this is listen, Georgia have been a breath of fresh air, but sometimes the other team is just better. And sometimes I don't believe for a second Georgia wanted to sit back, but sometimes it's impossible not to because the opposition is just so good, you know, and they were trying to get them on the counter attack, you know.
But they do. That's exactly that point. Again, their counter attack. We have. Well, I'm saying we haven't got the players to do it. We have got the players to do it, but they're sat on the bench.
No, I agree with you. Yeah.
The point I wanted to make about substitution was as he's come on a couple of times. And that, maybe people think I'm biased, obviously, but I'm surprised Gordon's not getting a go, you know, because I just feel in these games, especially on that hand side of the field, it's very much coming back, passing back inside, very pedestrian. Whereas Gordon would be so direct.
Like different players on that left hand side, though, aren't there?
Yeah,
they are. Eze is very similar, where you'll just come in side, but slowly, like on the build up to it, where you know, fine, well, Gordon's gonna fire down that, then cut inside at the last minute.
I'm a big fan of Eze. I think Eze's very. I do think Eze's a good player.
Yeah, he's a good player.
But I just feel that there's the moments when I'm thinking, get Gordon on now to get at that fullback. Wasn't there a fullback yesterday was 48-year-old or something?
37 or something, wasn't he?
I mean, come on here. Like, Gordon would have just driven at him like all night long.
Eze is a great player. He is a great player, but he's not what's missing in that team, if you know what I mean.
I would agree.
It's selecting players that are very similar to each other, of retaining possession, wanting to recycle the ball, move the ball on, pass it across the field, rather than attacking and driving at them.
To be fair, when I watch Eze for Palace, I think he looks a breath of fresh air, right? When I watch him, and I'm not watching every game here, right? But when I normally watch Palace and I see him play, he's really exciting him, and he kind of gets me on the edge of my seat. But something to do with that England shirt, or perhaps the way they manage sometimes, that I think that gets taken out of the players. I think
he's got players in front of him to be able to drive. He's got Mateta up ahead of him. He's got what's he called? Who's now gone? Moved on the other side, who does the same. Elise attacking England. I mean, how many times have we seen Kane playing in bloody centre defence? He's that far back.
Yeah,
there's nobody up front. So that's me worry with Gordon, is even if he beats that man and he's driving forward, who's there? Who's in the box?
I feel though, and I could be wrong, of course, but I feel if Gordon was on the ball and driving forward, the team would almost sort of move up with them, if that makes sense.
You would hope that would happen.
And I agree with the Kane situation. Kane's coming dead deep and all the rest of it. But mind you, what I will say, when that ball came across yesterday for him to score, I shouted Shearer. You know, I stood up and went, Shearer. That was Alan Shearer. That goal was just Shearer for me. Like it was just Shearer. Couldn't believe
because he was in the box where he should be, attacking the ball.
Oh, well, I think everybody's in agreement.
It was amazing.
Right, boys, I'm calling it a night because we have gone past quarter now. Well past quarter now.
Oh, sorry, 10 o'clock, yeah.
Once again, back to COVID days. It's like, was it 4 years ago now? All over again. Thanks, everybody who has been watching live on this one. Like the video means a lot to us. Become a subscriber. It costs you absolutely nothing to do that. Just like all times, become a member. Help us out a little bit. We might be able to get a studio back next week if we can afford to buy it, because it's a new PSR rollover. So we might be able to get a new studio.
It's a new year.
Get back in.
Moving into a new one.
We're going to get a big sponsorship behind her as well, just like the training ground shirts. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Watch what you're doing. Hurrah.